I became addicted to sleeping pills. You know the rules, eh? There's no rules. Jean-Claude Van Damme was using $10,000 worth of cocaine every single week. Directors had to hire handlers just to find him on set. He would disappear for days, miss entire shoots, and show up hallucinating. The drugs destroyed his $100 million career. But that wasn't his worst secret. In 1998, he attempted suicide and got diagnosed with rapid cycling bipolar disorder. He thought his troubles were over after getting clean. Then in April 2025, Romanian prosecutors hit him with trafficking accusations that could end everything. Jean-Claude Van Damme was born on October 18, 1960, in a small area in Brussels called Berm-Sant-Agat. His full name was Jean-Claude Camille François van Varenberg. His father, Eugen, worked as both an accountant and a florist. His mother, Elena, had Flemish roots and spoke Dutch, while his father spoke French. Their home was bilingual, which later helped Jean-Claude when he entered the global spotlight. He had one sister, Veronique, and they grew up in a quiet, working-class neighborhood. From the start, his parents believed in discipline and hard work. When his father noticed that Jean-Claude was very skinny and shy, he decided the boy needed to train in martial arts. As a young boy, Jean-Claude struggled badly in school. He wore thick glasses and had a small, fragile frame. Kids bullied him non-stop and called him brains in a mean way. He wasn't into sports. He preferred comic books and quiet hobbies. He later said it was really hard growing up and that he wasn't strong at all. His father realized something had to change. When Jean-Claude turned 11, he started lifting weights. He wanted to transform his body so no one could push him around anymore. That decision changed his life forever. The gym became his escape. He trained day after day, determined to never feel helpless again. At age 12, his father signed him up for karate classes at the Centre National d'Art in Excels. The coach was a tough man named Claude Gitz. From 1972 to 1976, Jean-Claude trained every single day. The classes were brutal. He got his nose broken more than once during sparring, but he kept going. He learned discipline, sharp kicks, and incredible flexibility. By 1976, when he turned 16, he had earned a spot on Belgium's national karate team. This was a huge achievement for a boy who had once been bullied for being weak. Around the same time, something surprising happened. Jean-Claude quietly started taking ballet lessons. He was still training in karate, but from age 16 to 21, he also did ballet 5 days a week. He knew it would help with balance, grace, and body control. He later said ballet was the hardest training he ever did, even harder than martial arts. He never told his karate friends because he knew they'd laugh. But the truth was, ballet helped make his kicks look perfect. It helped him do the famous splits that everyone would later talk about. Jean-Claude's first real karate match happened when he was 15. In 1975, he had 44 wins and only 4 losses in semi-contact matches between 1976 and 1980. In one of his early fights in Brussels, his opponent hit him hard with a roundhouse kick. Jean-Claude almost lost, but seconds later he knocked the other guy out cold. That moment showed how tough he really was. In December 1979, he helped the Belgian karate team win a major European tournament in Brussels. Then on March 8, 1980, he got his biggest win yet. He fought Patrick Tugels, a man who had beaten him twice before. Jean-Claude broke his own hand during the fight, but still kept going. He kicked Tugels in the nose so hard that the man couldn't continue. Jean-Claude won by TKO. His hand needed surgery and he had to stop fighting for months. But that match proved he had the heart of a champion. In 1979, at just 19 years old, Jean-Claude won the European Professional Karate Association's middleweight championship. He had 18 knockouts and only 1 loss in full contact fights. Some people questioned the records, saying the stats might have been padded with weaker opponents, but most agreed that he was a powerful and skilled fighter. When he was 20, he opened a small gym in Brussels called California Gym. It was right next to a cemetery. He hoped the gym would give him income and a place to train, but it barely made money. To survive, he worked all kinds of jobs. He delivered pizzas, laid carpets, and did modeling for muscle magazines. He often slept in the gym to avoid paying rent. He ate leftovers from restaurants, and sometimes even stole food. This went on for nearly 2 years. He saved every bit of money he could, dreaming of going to America. In 1982, at age 21, he finally made it to Los Angeles. Some say he arrived with just $50. Others say it was $2,000 or even $5,000. Whatever the number, he had no English, no acting experience, and no one to help him. He lived in his car near Venice Beach. He showered in public bathrooms and did odd jobs like cleaning apartments, waiting tables, and delivering pizzas. He once worked as a limo driver and met Chuck Norris, who later gave him a chance to do stunt work. His first movie role was in 1984's Break-In, where he appeared for a second doing a silly dance in the background. It wasn't even credited. Around this time, he worked as a bouncer at a bar owned by Chuck Norris. He was completely broke, sometimes eating from trash cans just to stay alive. Still, he trained every day and kept auditioning. He eventually became a sparring partner for Chuck Norris, which helped him get noticed. In 1986, he got a small villain role in No Retreat, No Surrender. He was paid just $250 to play a brutal Russian fighter. He hit his co-stars for real during scenes, and the director kept telling him to stop hurting people. But Van Damme was intense and serious about every fight scene. That same year, he made his boldest move yet. He was working at a restaurant when he saw producer Menem Gulen eating there. Van Damme did a perfect roundhouse kick while holding a bowl of soup. Gulen was so impressed, he invited him for an audition. Van Damme waited all day at Cannon Films. When Gulen finally called him in, Jean-Claude took off his shirt and did high kicks over the producer's head. Gulen was stunned. He threw him a script and said, "Next week, in Hong Kong." That script was Bloodsport. The movie was filmed with a tiny budget, somewhere between $1.5 and $2.3 million. Van Damme did all his own stunts with no safety gear. He performed the splits on kitchen counters and did every kick himself. The fights were dangerous, but Van Damme didn't care. The movie was delayed and almost went straight to video, but he convinced Gulen to let him re-edit the fight scenes. He worked non-stop for weeks. When Bloodsport finally came out in 1988, it shocked everyone by making $50 million around the world. But not everything went well. In 1987, he had a nightmare audition for Predator. He was hired to wear the alien costume, which cost $20,000 to make. He hated it. The suit made him claustrophobic, and he passed out twice. The producer yelled that if it happened again, he'd be fired. Van Damme snapped. He ripped off the expensive headpiece and smashed it. The producers screamed and threw him off the set. They replaced him with a 7-foot-tall actor named Kevin Peter Hall. In 1989, Jean-Claude Van Damme became a global star with Kick. It came out on September 8th and made $50 million, even though it only cost $2.7 million to make. It played on 973 screens and earned $4.1 million in its first weekend, ranking third in the U.S. The movie was shot in Thailand, where Van Damme trained in real Muay Thai with local fighters. It was the first Hollywood movie to show Thai kickboxing to the world. The most unforgettable part is when Van Damme dances drunkenly in a Bangkok bar. He moves to the music with his shirt open looking wild and then suddenly gets into a brutal fight. That strange mix of funny and violent became one of the most talked about moments in his career. It turned him into a real action star and made Muay Thai famous. That same year, Cyborg came out. It was shot in just 23 days for less than $500,000. Cannon Films had lost money on canceled He-Man and Spider-Man movies. So, director Albert Pune quickly wrote a new story in one weekend to use the leftover costumes and sets. The names in the movie were even taken from guitars like Gibson, Rickenbacker, and Marshall Strat. During filming, something awful happened. Van Damme accidentally hit actor Jackson Rock Pinkney in the eye with a prop knife. The injury cost the studio $485,000 in a lawsuit. But despite the chaos and bad reviews, the movie made over $10 million and kicked off a new cyberpunk series. In 1990, Lionheart showed Van Damme in a more emotional role. He played Lion Gautier, a soldier who deserts the French Foreign Legion and enters illegal fights in Los Angeles to support his dead brother's family. The fights were gritty and brutal with no rules. Van Damme got hurt several times while filming, including a dislocated shoulder. In the UK, the movie was called A Wow, and in Australia, it was called Rombette. It first came out in France on August 1, 1990, and reached American theaters on January 11, 1991. This was the movie that proved he could act, not just fight. Later that year, he starred in Death Warrant, where he played a cop going undercover in a prison. It made $46 million on a $6 million budget. Van Damme slowed production because he kept changing the fight scenes to include his famous spinning kicks. He didn't want to fight like a normal cop. One of the coolest details is that the prison interiors were actually filmed in the basement of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, while Pretty Woman was being filmed upstairs at the same time. He even helped with editing after filming to make the fights look tighter. The final showdown against a creepy killer called Sandman was shot in just one day inside a huge LA power plant. In 1991, he did Double Impact, where he played twin brothers. The movie came out on July 31st and was 110 minutes long. Van Damme had to act as both characters, switching between a calm, charming brother and a tough, angry one. They used split-screen tricks and hired real twin stand-ins to help make the scenes look real. This was before CGI, so everything had to be done with camera timing and optical effects. It was one of the first movies where people realized he could do more than just fight. He could actually act in complex roles. By 1992, Van Damme had hit big with Universal Soldier. It made $12 million worldwide on a $23 million budget. But behind the scenes, things were getting tense. He demanded a fancy trailer and wouldn't come out unless his wife, bodybuilder Gladys Portuguese, was with him on set. That caused huge delays because she had to be flown to each filming location. His co-star Dolph Lundgren said Van Damme had become difficult and full of ego. Their rivalry exploded in 1992 at Cannes, where they almost got into a fight on stage. Some say it was real, others think it was staged. Either way, the movie's success made Van Damme a true A-list star. In 1993, he teamed up with famous Hong Kong director John Woo for Hard Target. Shot in the Louisiana swamps, Van Damme insisted on doing his own stunts, and during one scene with a horse kick, he almost shattered his leg. Universal got so nervous about Woo's directing that they sent Sam Raimi to babysit the production. It took 65 days to finish, but Woo later said he was blown away by Van Damme's willingness to do dangerous scenes. Time Cop in 1994 became Van Damme's biggest hit ever, earning $101.6 million on a $28 million budget. He played a cop who travels through time. He made sure the script had extra scenes to show off his split moves. The kitchen scene where he avoids electrocution by jumping into a split became iconic. He also pushed for scenes where he showed his body, especially his butt, which he was very proud of. He got paid $3 million for the role. Critics complained about the plot holes, but fans loved the action and time travel. But things got out of control later that year when he filmed Street Fighter. He was using $10,000 worth of cocaine every week. Director Steven Douza said Van Damme would show up high and disappear for hours. They had to hire a wrangler just to keep track of him. On top of that, he had an affair with Kylie Minogue while filming in Thailand. His wife, Darcy LaPierre, was pregnant at the time and didn't know about it until he admitted it in 2012. He also demanded private flights and separate hotels. Despite all this, he still pulled off a decent performance. In 1995, he got his highest paycheck ever, $5 million for sudden death. He played a fire marshal saving people during a hockey game at the Stanley Cup Finals. It was shot at the Real Civic Arena in Pittsburgh with NHL players like Luc Robitaille. There was even a fight scene with the team mascot, Iceberg, in the arena's kitchen. Van Damme also did a zipline stunt from the arena roof that looked so over the top it got mocked. The movie cost $35 million but only made $20.4 million in the US, though it ended up making $64 million worldwide. His first time directing was The Quest in 1996, set in 1925. Tibet, real fighters from 16 countries battled for a golden dragon statue, but Van Damme was still using $10,000 of cocaine a week and often called in sick. A studio handler was supposed to control him, but actually made things worse. When he traveled to Hong Kong during filming, he came back late and missed full days. Even with all the delays and problems, the $35 million film still did well internationally. In Maximum Risk, also in 1996, he played twin brothers again. One is killed by the Russian mafia and the other seeks revenge. The car chases were real and dangerous. A stunt double got hurt badly in one crash. Van Damme insisted on extreme realism, but critics said most of the dangerous stuff wasn't even him. The film included a fight where he wore only a towel, which got a lot of attention. The budget was $15 million, but the stunts stretched it thin. In 1997, Double Team paired him with Dennis Rodman, but Van Damme's behavior was becoming unpredictable. He had undiagnosed bipolar disorder and would go from cheerful and manic to depressed in the same day. Director Tui Hark had to keep changing the scenes because of his mood swings. Rodman, who had no acting experience, ended up being the more stable one. The $30 million movie was less about the plot and more about just getting it finished. Then came Knockoff in 1998, where he played a fashion designer caught in a plot about exploding jeans. That same year, Van Damme was finally diagnosed with bipolar disorder. His performance was wild, singing Hong Kong songs and acting strange on set. He was trying to go through rehab while still filming. The director had to work around his changing moods, which often stopped production completely. The movie's wild story about fashion terrorism mirrored what was happening in Van Damme's real life. Also in 1998, Legionnaire came out based on Van Damme's dream of joining the French Foreign Legion. But his image was crushed that February when he was knocked out cold in a Manhattan strip club. He insulted Chuck Stowe, a former Hell's Angel and boxer, in the restroom. When Zito heard what Van Damme said, he walked over to his table and punched him hard, sending him flying across the floor. The beating continued as people watched. At the same time, Legionnaire flopped at the box office, making the moment even more humiliating. In 1995, Jean-Claude Van Damme got a call that could have secured his future. Universal Pictures was offering him $36 million for a trilogy, $12 million per movie. Time Cop had just pulled in over $100 million worldwide. Instead of signing, Van Damme told them he wanted $20 million per film, just like Jim Carrey. He said, "Everything I touched turned into money." But what he heard on the other end wasn't a counteroffer. It was laughter. They laughed and hung up the phone. That single moment ended his run as an A-list star. Just 5 years earlier, in 1990, he was making $75,000 for Death Warrant. By 1994, he was earning $8 million for Street Fighter, but the $20 million gamble got him blacklisted overnight. That same year on the Street Fighter set, things were already falling apart behind the scenes. Van Damme was in the grip of cocaine addiction, using around 10 grams a day. It cost him about $10,000 a week, which meant more than $500,000 a year. He'd disappear from set, miss entire shooting days, and couldn't function without his fix. The studio had to assign him a handler, but that person only made things worse, bringing champagne to the set and partying with him. By the time Double Team was filming in 1996, he was hallucinating. He checked into rehab but walked out in 7 days without drugs. He was completely not. People in Hollywood began calling him Jean-Claude Van Damme. In 1998, everything came crashing down. After a suicide attempt, doctors diagnosed him with rapid cycling bipolar disorder. He had been swinging between manic highs and depressive lows for years, and now it made sense. During manic episodes, he was hyper-creative but aggressive. He'd lash out, demand outrageous salaries, and self-medicate with cocaine. His wife, Gladys Portuguese, had to live with the unpredictable mood swings. The suicide attempt finally pushed him to get help. He went on mood stabilizers and later spoke openly about it in 2007 on Oprah, but the damage to his career had already been done. Back in 1994, while filming Street Fighter in Thailand, he got involved in another scandal. He was married to Darcy Lippier at the time, but he started an affair with Kylie Mitt. Almost 20 years later, he admitted it in a Guardian interview, calling it sweet kiss, beautiful lovemaking. He said it would be abnormal not to have had an affair.